Okay, all the new parts have been fabricated and we're going to have them with us for the next Grand.
Qatar is still relatively new to the F1 calendar. Teams will be desperate, therefore, to get some good data here in free practice.
Okay, give us some good, consistent laps, please. We're looking for good data that we can work into a race strategy. Okay, test complete, and that was a really good job indeed. We got a lot of valuable information out of that. Well done. Pitting this lap then. Come into the pits at the end of this lap.
Sadly, it's time to say goodbye as It's all about flow and pace today, qualifying in Qatar, a high-speed test that will set the grid for tomorrow's race. So welcome along. Welcome to today's sprint. This is shaping up to be another fantastic weekend. We're back here in Losail for a track that's 3.34 miles long. There are 16 turns around its unique three-prong shape and just a single DRS zone out of turn 16. It's fast and it's flowing, and there's a good overtaking opportunity with DRS down the long straight and into turn 1. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's sprint. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And it's Fernando Alonso alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Norris, Oscar Piastri, Perez, Stroll, Hamilton, Russell, Leclerc, Sainz, Albon, Ace, Tsunoda, Gasly, Ocon, Ricciardo, Sargent, Magnussen, Hülkenberg, and Valtteri Bottas begins the race from the back of the grid. Which of these drivers will get pole position today? We'll soon find out. And alongside me in the commentary box today, a man who I always look up to, which is easier said than done, Anthony Davidson. Well, they say that a change is as good as a rest, and whilst there's not much rest on show in the sprint format today, there's definitely a change to what we're usually seeing on the track. Let's look at their season, and particularly against their teammate. Fair to say, they've got the better of them more often than not. I know what we've got to do before the start of today's race, but what about our driver? What do the final hours look like for them?
Well, for them, you've got your pre-race rituals that you go through. You see different drivers that, some have got their headphones on, they're listening to the music. Some drivers really absorb the energy from the crowd and they're there waving to them. Other drivers, they go within themselves. They chat to their engineers, absorbing that information, that vital information that you need to carry you through the race. And, you know, those pre-race rituals are essential to making things systematic. We do a lot of Grand Prix in a season, and the more systematic you can be, the easier you are within that environment.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down. All right, let's focus now for the rest of the race. DRS is being enabled this lap. We can use DRS when you're within 1 second of the car ahead and in the DRS zone. You might experience some understeer now that you're in the wake of the car ahead. Try to get past as soon as possible. final lap, final lap. Push, push. Okay, so we're leading our teammate by 8.8 seconds. Okay, so gap to the car ahead, 2.5 seconds. All right, race over. Take care of the car on the way in.
Well, that's an end to the sprint action. Next up, we'll set the grid for the Grand Prix. So we'll see you next time. It's all about flow and pace today, qualifying in Qatar, a high-speed test that will set the grid for tomorrow's race. So welcome along.
Okay, DRS is now available. Look out for a bit of understeer when trailing the car ahead. They're going to be giving off dirty air, which is going to affect our tyres, so try to get past. approaching the pit window and you're going to be on mediums. Okay, keep an eye on that gap ahead, please. 3.7 seconds. Gap to your teammate behind, 8.0 seconds. Box, we're coming in this lap. Okay, be aware, the grip levels are going to start falling away soon. Remember, box this lap. Keep an eye on your distance to the speed limit line as you approach and make sure you don't speed. Right, let's have you in at the end of this lap, please. Okay, let's go now. Come on. Perfect job from you and the crew there, mate. We're delighted with that. That was our last stop. No more scheduled pit stops. Let's go. P17 now. We've got P17. Sargent's ahead of you. They're on fresh mediums. Ocon behind. They're on fresh mediums. Look after these tyres now. We want to finish the race on this compound. 9 laps to go. Okay, mate, I know you've had a couple of offs, but it doesn't matter. Let's get your head down and focus on keeping the next few laps well within the white lines, please. Valtteri's in the pits. Okay, here's the gap that we're trailing the car ahead by. 12.6 seconds. Car ahead's coming to fit the mediums. Car ahead now running medium tyres. Oh, mate, great stuff. You hit that target. That sets us up nicely for the rest of this race. Okay, gap to the car ahead, 2.1 seconds. Try and close the gap to the car ahead. It's currently 2 seconds up the road. Okay, mate, lap times are a little erratic at the moment. We need consistency, so let's try and stabilise them. Some information on Perez. They've got an issue with their car, they're going to be slow. Great stuff, mate. You hit the target well there. Nice one. There's a long way to go in this race, though, so keep your head down. Okay, final lap. Let's go. Final lap. Yes, great drive, great drive. Everyone here is really happy with that performance. Well done, mate.
Lando Norris, take a bow, at last, a winner in Formula One.
I mean, it looked like they were in a different category at points during the race, led every lap. I mean, what more can we say?
As the winners make their way up to the podium, one can only imagine the celebrations that will take place at McLaren tonight. Congratulations to everyone on the team, securing the win and proving that they're a force to be reckoned with out on the track. It's been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action, and I can't wait.
Okay, unlucky, mate. That wasn't quite what we needed, but let's not worry about it. Get your head down and chin up. There's a long way to go. Okay, unlucky, mate. It was a good try, but we didn't quite meet our targets. Not to worry. Get your head down and chin up, and let's focus right the way into the checkered flag. Okay, well, it wasn't to be this time, but not to worry. There's a long way to go in this race, so let's focus. Okay, mate, we didn't get what we needed there, I'm afraid, but head down, chin up, and let's focus on the rest of the race. Right, I'm afraid we didn't quite meet our targets there, but don't worry about it. Get your head down and chin up, and let's focus on the rest of this race.